All right, so yeah, I think we're good to go. So today's class is on our expired listings and for sale by owner listings as a prospecting method. These two are some of the fundamentals of real estate prospecting. And to be honest with you, if you can master these two things, you don't need to learn anything else. Like um, getting business off expireds and for sale by owners is an easy way to get business. Well, I say easy, but it says easy, it does hard. You know, it is easy. The concepts are easy. The ideas are pretty easy, but it's harder than it sounds because you actually have to do the work and you have to interact with people, and that's where the grind comes in. And I'll share a couple of stories from my own little career and things that worked for me and things that didn't. But let's start with expired listings first. So an expired listing is a home that was listed with another real estate broker, did not sell within the dates agreed upon in the listing agreement, so it expired, right? So we won't know what listings are coming up to be expired because that's part of the listing agreement. We can't have access to that, but we will once it is in fact expired, right? So how do you find them? Well, you can set up automatic searches in your MLS to show you, to automatically email you at midnight. Hey, what are the new expireds for the day? That's one of the things I would recommend, setting up the automatic daily search on your computer. Automatic being important. We'll talk, as we talk more about expireds here in a minute, this will come up more, but I will say up front, for expireds, you want to go by in person. If at all possible, you want to go in person to the door. So that being said, I very much think setting your searches up to be in an area of town that you typically drive by anyway, maybe between your house and the office, or your house and school, or whatever, but somewhere where you normally are, and that will help in your overall prospecting plan. Because if you just search the whole area and you want to drop by and say hello, and you live in Marion and the house is in Hendersonville, another house is in Burnsville, you're not going to do that. Or you might do it once and you're not going to get anything from the two listings, and you'll be like, well, this doesn't work, and you'll quit. So we don't want you to do that. It's more about the consistency than anything else. Now, another issue with expireds is that these listings have to not sell. So in a market like we're in right now, a whole lot of them are selling. So we still do have expireds, but not as many as in a quote unquote normal market. You always want to make sure we follow our MLS rules and bylaws and the code of ethics and all of that. Basically, that just says if it is listed with another agent, the only way publicly that we know that it is through the MLS. So if it shows active with that agent, then we cannot prospect for that client. So we all know that, but the issue comes in when you search, or you have an automatic search set up, and the computer sends you, hey, this house expired last night, but then you wait till noon or 2 p.m. to go knock on the door. By that time, it might be reactivated again. So you want to be careful about that. If you do go out later in the day, you're going to want to double check the MLS. I've had issues myself and managing other people where an agent calls me all upset and says, hey, your agent knocked on my door, you knocked on my client's door, and in fact, I have it up as active. I say, oh, well, when did you make it reactive? Well, it was like 11 o'clock when I got it reactivated. It's like, well, I dropped by at 11:30. So, what do you want to do about it? I'm sorry. Like there's only so much you can do. So I don't know if this is officially correct, but my rule of thumb is like, if you check it at 9 o'clock in the morning and you're out the door and you're knocking on their door by 10 o'clock and they happen to go active in that time frame, I'll defend that all day long. You're doing the right thing. But if you do check at 9 o'clock and you go knock on the door at 4 p.m. without rechecking it, then it's a little harder to defend that. So just be careful about that and follow the MLS rules and bylaws. But why, like we said, no time to wait. Why do we want to knock on the door, and why do we not want to wait? Ideally, for expired prospecting, especially for homes, I want to be knocking on their door at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the morning. Why? Well, because sellers, expired listing prospecting is not new. This is not, we're not reinventing anything here. This is a standard, tried and true method for prospecting. And so other companies, other agencies, other agents in our office are prospecting expired listings. So, you know, the early bird gets the worm kind of thing, right? So you got to get out there and knock on the door as soon as possible. Most agencies and most agents will teach for their agents to call an expired listing. I don't like that for several reasons. One being, I think it does it does violate the do not call list. If they are on the do not call list, to me that violates the do not call, because a for sale by owner is a little different. They put their phone number out there looking for, you know, inquiries and information. We'll talk about that later. But expireds haven't done that. So if you call to solicit their business, I think that's a violation of the do not call list. So that's one issue, that you won't be able to call a lot of people. But also other agents will be calling anyway, and you're going to be the one that knocks on their door. So you're different. You're more active than the other agents. Does it take you a little bit more time, a little bit more gas money? Sure, but not really. If you pick up listings off of it, it's well worth the investment. The other part of that is when you get face to face with someone, you can have a much more candid conversation and a lot more building up of rapport with them than you can over the phone. If you call them up just to say, hey, your listing expired, and they say, well, okay, well, I'll call my agent, click. Like, it's really, what have you gotten out of that? Or you have a conversation with them and it just doesn't go super well because they're obviously not happy about it being expired. But if you're in person, it gives you a much bigger opportunity to build some rapport, have a conversation, show some sympathy, show that you're here to help. You can talk all day long on the phone about why you're different than that other agent, but it's going to be harder to convince them than if you're the one that's there and they're like, I haven't seen my agent in 6 months, and you're standing there today without even having a listing agreement. Boy, that shows something. That shows that you have the opportunity or the ability to be more active than their other agent, right? So don't wait. If you're going to do prospecting this way, we'll talk about some other methods of expired prospecting in a minute, but the standard method is be there early morning the day it expires, okay? So why do listings expire? This is a conversation you have with every single expired listing that's out there. It's the same conversation. Why do listings expire? Price, condition, and marketing. And sometimes people say, well, what about location? Location, location, location. Well, location has to do with your price. So location drives price, but why did the listings expire? Because they were overpriced, the condition wasn't good enough, or their marketing wasn't good enough, right? So every conversation is the same. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, that your home didn't sell. Show some sympathy to that. They often are not happy with real estate agents in general at this point. So you have to get through that. Oh my gosh, I know sometimes real estate agents don't do a good job. I'm so sorry that happened to you. There's only 3 reasons why a house doesn't sell once it's on the market. It's price, condition, and marketing. Which of those 3 do you think it was for your home? And get them to answer that. They say, oh, I don't know. I think we were priced right. The condition is wonderful. And, I thought the agent's marketing was fantastic. So I don't really know. That's rare that they're going to say that. But if they do, then you say, well, I'd love to just come in and chat with you for a minute, take a look at the property, ask a few more questions, and help discover what did happen. Because one of those 3 things was off. And I'd love to help discover what that is for you. That's the conversation every time. Sometimes you'll ask and they say, oh, well, I know we're overpriced. That agent's been telling us, we're 50,000 overpriced the whole time. And, we just didn't listen. But now I think we're ready to change the price. Yay! You know, oftentimes that's the case, and you'll be on both sides of that deal where you'll have a listing yourself where you're begging, pleading the seller to drop the price. You need to be here if we're going to sell it, and they don't listen, and the listing expires, and they'll give the listing to another agent, and they'll list at the price that you've been suggesting all along. And guess what? It'll sell in 2 weeks, and you'll feel like crap. But you get to be on the other end of that as well. You get to pick up other people's listings. It's just part of the business. It'll happen. Hopefully we don't overprice our listings to where we're in that position, but things happen. Maybe you thought the price would be here, but then after further review, it should be down here. So it definitely happens, right? But this is the conversation. There's no real script we need for expireds. This is the script. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's 3 reasons why a house doesn't sell: price, condition, marketing. Which of those 3 do you think it was? And they might say, well, I don't know. What do you think? Say, well, would you invite me in and let's sit down and talk, and I can ask a few other questions. And then those further questions would be on price. Well, how much activity did you get? What kind of, did you get any other offers? Finding out what the feedback was, what you could find out from that. Condition, you can walk through the property and evaluate that on your own. Same thing though, you can ask them about feedback on condition, things like that. And then marketing. Asking the questions about marketing is really easy. Kind of start at the base and start moving your way up. And what I mean is, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, let's talk about the marketing. The very basic thing that an agent needs to do is put you into the multiple listing service. I found you there, so I know you were in the multiple listing service. But did you ever check your MLS sheet? So maybe look at the MLS sheet. Maybe there was really no directions, there was no good remarks, there was 2 pictures. Maybe the MLS sheet was horrible. Maybe not. But if it was, you can point that out. Well, here's a marketing piece that I think we would do better right here. Or maybe you say, you know what, honestly, it looks like they did a really nice job on the MLS. They've got all kinds of attachments. Everything looks really good. Next, you can talk about professional photography. You can talk about Matterport. You can talk about open houses. You can talk about direct mail marketing, and talk about circle prospecting. Talk about internet ads, social media ads. You can just start going down the list and just start asking them. And the chances are you're going to find things in there. I love open houses because open houses there's just a pandemic of no open houses in the market, right? So with Weichert, we believe in open houses. So you can start with that and say, well, how about open houses? And oftentimes you'll hear, well, they did one, or they did a couple, but they haven't done anything in the last 3 months on them. Those are a great opportunity for you to step in and talk about your open houses. All right, so ideally you're looking for some things on marketing, because that's the big thing you can change, right? You can talk to them about condition, you can talk to them about price, but ultimately these are their decisions. Again, we can consult on all those things, but the marketing is really our job. So if we can show them what the marketing is that we would like to get done for them, we could really help them get sold, okay? So again, that's really the conversation every single time, right? So making the first contact. Like we talked about earlier, make sure it is in fact expired. A little story that I have, my very first day on the job, when I took a class like this from a company in Charlotte when I started selling real estate, I really liked the idea of expired listings. So I thought this would be one of the first things that I'm going to go do. It was a different market back then, so there were expireds available. And so the first official day on the job, I pulled up an expired listing, and I said, all right, this one's not far from the office, and I'm going to go out and take a look. So I drove out there and knocked on the door, and the guy came out and he said, how can I help you? And I said, well, I'm Aaron Kraft with, whatever realty. And I was just noticed that your home had expired from the multiple listing service, and I was wondering if I could maybe help you. And the guy said, my listing's not expired. And I said, oh, yes, sir, it is. And of course, I'm new, so I'm not sure what I'm doing. And I'm like, yes, it is. I just looked it up and I saw that it was, in fact, expired this morning. And he said, no, it's not. No, it's not. And I said, yes, it is. And he said, no, it's not. And I said, yes, it is. And he said, son, you see that sign in the yard, the for sale sign? I said, yes, sir, I see the sign. He's like, that means I'm on the market. I am for sale right now. So I don't know what you're trying to pull, but I am for sale. And so I like walked out and, I was frustrated, confused because I wasn't confident in myself. So I'm like, maybe he's right. Maybe I'm just a complete idiot. So I go back to the office and pull it up. It is expired. So what was the problem? I couldn't prove to him that he was expired. Now that was before our cell phones like this and everything. So I couldn't pull it up on my phone like I probably could do now. But from that day on, my very first day, I never went to an expired again without printing out the MLS sheet first and having that in my hand. Because as I learned later, when you have those conversations, when the guy's like, no, my listing's not expired, and I show, oh, I'm so sorry that you're not aware of that, but you see here, here's the MLS sheet, you see where it says expired right here? This is what I'm seeing. And I would often hear from sellers, that bleep and bleep agent, he never even called me to let me know we were expiring. Come on in, let's talk. You're here, he's not ever been here. Let's talk. Like those are the good conversations. So in the future, when I had a guy like that didn't know he was expired, those were the listings that as soon as I heard they didn't know, I was like, oh yeah, I got a good chance on this one. So bring some evidence that yes, in fact, they are expired. All right, that's one of my little stories. I would absolutely wear your name badge when you go to someone else's home. Safety, security, those kind of things are real, and very few people knock on people's doors anymore. So if someone does, people are usually on edge about it, and they'll usually peek around the corner or something. If they see your name badge, it does do a lot psychologically to people. So wear your name badge, make sure you have it on so they can more easily identify you. They see your name, they see your company, makes you look more professional, etc. So that's really, really important, okay? Again, the owners have gone through a frustrating time, so you always want to show some empathy. You need to be prepared for them to attack you just a little bit, because oftentimes they're not happy with real estate agents. And obviously you're not their listing agent, but they might say, well, how come you were never here before? How come you never showed my property? You got to be ready for that kind of thing. And when they say that, I always used to just say, well, there's a lot of properties out there, and I'm constantly searching for the right buyers. And, there's 3 reasons why your house doesn't sell: price, condition, and marketing. And, maybe one of those 3 reasons was why I wasn't able to show the property to a particular buyer. Let's discover which one of those 3 it is. May I come in and we can talk about that? So just round and round we go on the price, condition, and marketing until we can get in the house and start talking with them, okay? There's some helpful materials with Weichert. You can create a custom expired sheet very easily in about a minute and a half. You can go in there and print one of these off to bring with you. Very simple. The language is put in there for you. It'll auto-populate the address. You can take a picture of the home, put it in there, have your information. And we also have this brochure, Months Without Selling. And it's a few pages of a brochure that talks a little bit about maybe why their home didn't sell. Those are nice little pieces to have with you. They are great. If you can do that, wonderful, absolutely wonderful. But don't let that stop you from getting out there and knocking on the door. If you just simply have a business card, your name badge, and maybe their MLS sheet, you're good to go. All right. Supportive statements, saying things like, I certainly can appreciate what you must have gone through in the last 6 months. I know it's difficult. It seems like you worked really hard to prepare your house for sale. I know the showings are difficult. It sounds to me like you'd still like to move. Is that correct? And trying to find out what they're really trying to do. Motivating statements, again, talking to them. I like walking them through the marketing pyramid. of what they need to get done, how far down the marketing side did they go, and finding out what their overall motivations were. So asking things like, so why did you put the house on the market in the first place? Finding out what they said. If they said, well, you know, we wanted to move closer to the grandkids and we got to sell the house first to do that. Like, wonderful. That's some great motivation that I can work with and try to keep them on the right track, right? So find what their motivations are and move that forward. Common objections would be all real estate agents are the same, to which point you just simply have to discuss maybe the marketing side of it and talk about, you could play Oprah and just ask the right questions. Say, well, why do you feel that way? Tell me more. You know, get them to open up more and more about that. You don't want to get defensive and defend real estate agents because they don't like real estate agents right now. So don't defend them because that'll put you on the opposite side of them. Sympathize with them. Tell them, oh, I know sometimes it feels this way, or sometimes, you know, the agents don't do a good job, and, you know, I'm sorry that's happened, but I'll always be on their side with it all. All right. So before we move on from expireds, there's some really big points to make. So essentially the conversation is the same every time: price, condition, and marketing, right? But how you go about finding the expireds can change. And so we talked about the common method, which is to find an expired today and go out there today and knock on their door. That's the common expired method. And I would recommend that you do that. I heard you, Kim, talk earlier about, hey, at the end of the month is coming, or the middle of the month is coming. Like, those are great times too. If you say, you know what, I want to work expireds, but I only want to work them on the 15th, 16th of each month and the 30th or the 1st of each month. Wonderful. Those are great days because a lot of times listings expire on the 30th, 31st, or the 1st of the month. And so if you say, you know what, I'm not even going to worry about expireds all month long, but on those days, I'm going to hammer down and I'm going to spend 8 hours on knocking on some expireds. That's what I'm going to do. Or, you know, I'm going to spend the first half of that day knocking on minimum of 10 expireds. I'm going to do that every month. That's wonderful. It's a great prospecting plan. It'll help you pick up some listings. So that's a little bit of a different way to go about it, other than just looking every single day. Both of them are great. It's just fitting what fits your schedule. But don't forget about other expireds. Don't forget about land. Don't forget about multifamily. Don't forget about condos and townhomes. Don't forget about commercial expireds. We are so creatures of habit that all real estate companies worth their salt are teaching expired listing prospecting. But then we all just go look at the homes. We all want to go sell that $500,000 home, you know, middle of the road, you know, big paycheck, but not, you know, crazy high $2 million sale that has all of its issues with that as well. So I'm going to go after that $400,000, $500,000 home. So is everyone else, you know? So go after those, but don't forget about the other stuff. Well, how can you knock on the doors of a land expired? Well, you can't. Maybe, but you usually can't, right? So just pull up the tax records and send them a letter. And this is the sort of thing, like, if you really want to be a big time agent, you either hire an assistant to do some of this for you, or you spend your TV time sending out letters. You know, put on your favorite show on a rainy day and, you know, watch a 2-hour movie if you want. Just while you're doing that, you're looking up tax records of some land listings, writing out some letters. Like, to me, that's a fun day because I feel like I accomplished something, and it's also relaxing and kind of fun, you know? So you got to get in the habit of doing some of those things. Yeah, go ahead.
So with land, because, you know, I have to go through the tax record and send a letter, evidently, obviously it may become active in the meantime, but, you know.
Yeah, but if you send the letter out
the same day,
you know, you're not going to be in trouble
okay,
because you sent the letter out. If somebody were to argue about that, I would certainly defend that, saying, well, our letter was sent the day it expired. You relisted it the day later. So what's your problem? You know?
Okay.
So yeah, I definitely defend that. But oftentimes, and I will say this, when I first started in real estate, expireds were a lot easier to go get because the technology wasn't quite as invasive as it is now, where our MLS now alerts our agents 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, letting you know, hey, your listing's about to expire. Hey, your listing's about to expire. It didn't used to do that stuff. So agents commonly would just forget and their listings would expire. And so that was wonderful for me. So it doesn't happen as much now. Now when they expire, it's more like the seller just doesn't want to sell anymore, or the seller is going to interview other agents or something like that. It's not often that the agent just plain forgets. So
There's a ton of them out in Spruce Pine every month
yeah,
on there. So I'm like, well, I mean, I don't know whether they're all out of town, investor owners with rentals or what, but
yeah, there can be. And but with the land, sometimes you'll find on the tax records their mailing address, right? And it's rarely the land. It's usually another place where they actually live. But sometimes that place is in town as well. So don't worry. I mean, don't be too afraid about going and knocking on their door to talk about their land.
okay.
That'll really throw people off. You knock on the door and say, hey, I'm with Wycott Realtors Unlimited. I had seen your land over on Mount whatever expired off the market, and I was interested in it. I would like to sell it, and I saw where you lived here, so I just thought I'd knock on the door, say hello, and wanted to talk to you about that. Do you have just a minute? And to start the conversation. So that's a great way, if they are in town, you can knock on the door and do that as well. But I love the idea of just sitting down and mailing, a few every night. It's something you can easily do in the early morning, late nights, and get something accomplished. So the other part of the expireds that you really do want to make sure you prospect as well is the ones that did not expire today, but they expired 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 2 years ago. And so, and again, the reason there is because the ones that are expiring today, everyone's talking to, everyone's calling, everyone's mailing to. And so if you look up stuff that expired last year, no one else is talking to those people. And so, of course, you got to look up and see if they relisted with another agent, because that MLS number will change if they list with a different agency. So if they're listed with ABC Group and it expires and they go list with XYZ Group, it won't show that listing as active again. It'll show it under a different MLS. So you have to search by address. You have to use the address portion and make sure that home wasn't relisted and resold. And oftentimes you'll find that they were. So you really got to search through that. I've had agents say, well, yeah, that's like being a detective or something. Like it takes me, 2, 3, 5 minutes to really find out if something was relisted. Yeah. And like, it's not hard. It just takes a little bit of time. But that's why I'm saying, like, to me, that's just busy work and stuff you can do in front of the TV, or, when you just need a mental break from other things that are harder to think through, and you just kind of sit there and just plug around the computer and get a few addresses and mail some stuff out to,
And that way you could farm an area for land as well.
Sure. Yeah. And the letters that you mail them, don't make them a dissertation. They should be 2, 3 paragraphs most. The first paragraph just saying, hey, I noticed your listing. I noticed your piece of land. I'm so-and-so. The second paragraph should be something to the effect of, I'm sorry that it didn't sell, some sympathy in there. And then, there's only 3 reasons why a piece of land or a house doesn't sell: price, condition, and marketing. I'd love to discover which of those 3 things it is, blah, 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 blah. And then maybe a third paragraph that maybe talks about a little bit about what you do very briefly, and more just, here's how you can contact me. I'd love to get together with you over a Zoom conference or in person. These days I would offer both. But that's all it needs to be. It's not a super hard letter to write.
Awesome.
All right. So again, as I'm pulling up some of the for sale by owner stuff here, if you got any other questions there, Kim, just let me know. But the main idea is to get it on your prospecting list for either daily prospecting, or maybe, you know, once a month you go out and you spend a good amount of time for a few days doing it, and or just the mailings, you know, but get it in your prospecting calendar so that you are doing it, because you want to get listings, and going after expireds is a great way to do it. And don't just shun the people that have $5,000 lots and say, you know, it's not worth my time, it's not worth the mailing to send it to these people and get a, you know, list a $5,000 lot, make a $50 commission. It's just not worth it. Well, maybe, but those give you footholds on the beach. And again, you're not going to have any competition for those things. So a great way to build a career is go after those people, because, okay, they've got this $5,000 lot that they need to sell, but then you come to find out that's one of 20 lots, 20 homes that that person owns, and they've got a $500,000 home over here that they want you to sell. Or you help them with that lot, and they talk with their neighbor, and their neighbor is really impressed with what you did, and the neighbor wants to list with you. I mean, those are the footholds on the beach. Or you have that $5,000 lot listed, and someone contacts you about it, and you talk to them, and they say, yeah, we're thinking of building, and they don't buy that lot, but then you end up looking at some land with them. They say, yeah, you know what, we're just going to buy an existing home. The whole building thing doesn't work for us. And they buy a $500,000 home from you, all because you prospect a $5,000 lot. So don't discriminate on those lower listings, or the listings that are out in Spruce Pine or other places that, like, not as desirable. Like, hey, not as desirable means there's less competition. You know, go after them, get those footholds on the beach. When you have 30 active listings, then you can tell me, I don't really want to prospect some of these that are further out. Like, then I'll listen to that and say, you know what, that's fine. You know, you built up your career, you've got 30 listings going. I get it. I totally get it. But until we do, then, you know, we need to get all those footholds on the beach. Okay.
Denise mentioned this morning that with land, that sometimes she doesn't do the 10% commission. She puts, it's a $1,500 commission.
Okay. Yeah,
How do you feel about that?
it can be variable, but, you know, the smaller pieces of land like that, oftentimes when they are that small, they're usually in these subdivisions that have these HOA fees, and the sellers just need to sell it so they can stop paying HOA fees.
Right.
So, but yeah, that's negotiable. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about for sale by owner prospecting. So for sale by owners, to me, are the brothers and sisters of expireds, because they're in the same family of people that have their hand raised saying, I want to sell my house, but then they have another hand raised saying, but not with you. So, but half of the prospecting game is figuring out who wants to sell, who wants to buy. That's half the game. So they've already eliminated half of the challenge for us. So that's why these two methods are fantastic ways to pick up business. However, the expired listings are much more of a hit and miss. I'm going to send a letter. I'm going to show up at your door. I'm going to talk to you. And usually you'll know that first discussion whether or not this is something that's going to likely work out or not. Sometimes there'll still be follow-ups. Yeah, we're going to think about it. We'd like to talk to you next week. Like, that'll happen, of course, but pretty much you're going to hear a lot of no's and you're going to hear some yeses, right? On expires, it's pretty quick answers. For sale by owners are the opposite. For sale by owners are a long-term courting relationship. They are something that you have to wine and dine them. You have to continue to talk to them over and over again. So that's the main difference between the two. That's why I did enjoy working both of these methods. These were my bread and butter when I got started, because I enjoyed both of them because they were very different in that they were completely different methods to talk through prospecting with people. All right. So a for sale by owner, it's a seller who's trying to sell his or her home without the services of a real estate agent, right? How do we find for sale by owners? Well, by far, the easiest way, the best way is just driving around. Now we've got our cell phones with these cameras and stuff, so it's super easy. When you see a for sale by owner, you're driving by, you see it, you can take a picture of the sign with the phone number, take a picture of the address. You can sit down and call them whenever you want. Of course, I would say, why aren't you just stopping by and saying hello right then and there? But there are other ways to find for sale by owners. There's all the different websites, Fsbo.com, Zillow, Craigslist, all kinds of great websites where you can find people that are selling by owner as well. Word of mouth. This is one that's neglected more often than not. How about talking to your sphere of influence, talking to your current clients? And we're always like prospecting. We're always talking to them about, of all the people who do you think's the next to buy or sell? It's one of those times you're talking to them. How about just simply asking, you know what? I'm on the lookout for sale by owners. If you see a for sale by owner, would you text me a picture of the sign and the address? I'd really appreciate that. Get some other people out there looking for you. Who else do you know? But just by even contacting them, like, oh yeah, I know this guy down the street. He's got a for sale by owner sign. I saw him put it up last week. Oh, great. So just sometimes asking around, you'll find some others. All right, but if you start paying attention, it's just like, you start looking for a car, you start seeing that car everywhere you go. They've always been there, just now you're paying attention. Same thing, if you make yourself pay attention to for sale by owners, you'll start seeing them more often than you might like. Not as often as you might like, but you know what I mean. All right. Some Fsbo facts. Most for sale by owners see selling as an easy task. It is not. It is not. But sometimes they feel like it is. Most for sale by owners eventually list with a real estate company. Somewhere around 80% of for sale by owners actually still list with a real estate company. So 8 out of 10. So you say, well, you know what? This guy's he's dead set on selling himself. Well, 80% of the time he's wrong. All right. So of course that means 20% of the time they do sell it themselves or whatever, but 80% of the time they will list with a real estate company. A lot of people want to try it. Let me try it. And some of the interesting stats, I don't have them in this slide. I should have put them in here, but some of the most recent statistics from National Association of Realtors shows that fewer homes are being sold by owner now than ever before in history since they started tracking the statistics in like 1980.
Is that still true in today's market with the shortage of homes?
It is. It's still true today. Like, well, why? And here's a couple of theories. This isn't fact. This is Aaron's theory of the day. So there's a couple of theories that I have on that. Number one, I think social media skews things so that when someone does sell by owner, when they do have a good experience, they post it everywhere. Everyone sees it. Everyone talks about it. But when they fail and they list with another company, no one's going on their Facebook page saying, oh, I failed, I screwed up, I made a bad decision. No one does that. So you only hear about the good stories, you never hear about the bad stories. You see a bunch of people, well, another part of that is, I would have thought that with technology being what it is today, you can take great videos from your phone about your house. You can walk through your own house with your iPhone. You can take great pictures now. It's so much easier to do some of the basic marketing that's needed to sell a house. Plus, you can get on all these websites. You can go on Zillow. You can post your stuff everywhere. Certainly, it'd be easier to sell the home. The problem is the buyers are more sophisticated. The buyers have access to all the information now as well. So they can go online also and read all the warnings about working with a for sale by owner and the actual process of buying a home and seeing that it is not as easy as they might have thought. And so they can go online and get some of this information easier, and it scares them into wanting to work with a buyer's agent. And it should. I mean, that's why we're in the business. Like I understand being in the business, the pitfalls and the issues that a buyer's up against, especially with a for sale by owner. So I think that's part of it. And I think a lot of buyers are too scared to go to for sale by owner themselves. And a lot of real estate agents don't want to go talk to for sale by owners when they have a buyer for that home, because they know it's going to be a headache, because they usually are. You got to deal with all the emotions of someone instead of going through another agent. So right or wrong, I think sometimes agents will avoid for sale by owners when they have buyers for those homes. So all of that's kind of adding up to making it harder and harder to sell as a for sale by owner. The other part of it is for sale by owners often think, well, why are they selling by owner? And I think I'm getting ahead of myself here. Let's just go back. We'll go back here in a minute. But why are they selling by owner? Well, they want to save the brokerage fee. Oftentimes, that's their number one reason. Well, but they often will say, well, I'll work with a buyer's agent. So the buyer's agent is getting paid, let's just say 3% on it. So how much are they really saving? Are they saving their 6%? No, they're saving 3%. Well, then how much marketing do they have to do on their own? How much time does it take them? Like, what's their time worth? Like, it doesn't take long for them to try selling on their own to realize, oh crap, this is a little harder than I thought. It takes a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, a little bit more marketing dollars than I thought. So oftentimes that's also at play here. All right, another fact, it does take an average of 5 to 7 contacts in order to list a for sale by owner. Like we said, it's a courting relationship. It's not a quick and easy listing capability. You got to keep going back time and time again. All right, some of the other reasons for self-selling. We talked about the brokerage fee, distrust of real estate agents. Oftentimes they may have had this bad experience with an agent. And they think, well, all you guys are the same. You don't do anything. You just put the sign in the yard, put the MLS, and you hope it sells. Well, unfortunately, there's some agents that have earned us that reputation, but that's not all of us, right? So oftentimes they have this distrust of real estate agents. So if you go knock on their door and you say to them, hey, I'm a real estate agent, I'd like to talk to you about listing your home, they don't trust you. They don't like you. So, if you're meeting someone on the street, you don't trust them, you don't like them, what's the chances are you're going to, go to their house? Like, none, right? Because you don't trust them, you don't like them. Same thing. So you got to build up that rapport. So, quote unquote, you have to date them, right? You got to keep talking to them. You got to keep showing them that you're different. Build up that trust with them. And we'll talk about how to do that. Sometimes they have a lack of motivation. This is a dangerous one. This is one that if you really feel this is it, you may just want to back away because they have this lack of motivation that they don't care if they ever sell it. They know their home's worth $500,000, but they put it on the market for $800,000. Like, if some idiot will pay it, we'll sell it. But otherwise, I don't care if I ever sell. Those are tough. But that's sometimes it. They don't really care if they sell. Those are dangerous to try to take those listings. Again, they had a bad experience with another agent. Ego is a big one as well. Sometimes they just think, well, I can do this. I see all these real estate agents out there. I'm smarter than they are. I can do this. And, it's like anything else. I mean, I guess I can go over to the coffee shop across the street and try to make a latte. I've never done it, though, with those machines, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I could go to the yoga studio and try to put on a class. It would be hilarious, but I could try to do it, right? So to me, that's what people are doing the same thing here. Just because you'd have an idea of what you should be doing doesn't mean you're going to do a good job at it, right? To me, it's the same thing. So, like, stay in your lane, people, and professionally, we should all do what we do well. But oftentimes they think they can, okay? So I believe you need to stop by or call them or contact them once a week from the first time you talk to them till the day that they sell the house, the day that you list it, someone else lists it, or they pass away. Like, those are the ways they can get out of that. They can either die or they can list with you. right? That's kind of the way to do it. So that's the hard part. That's why I said, like, says easy, does hard. Like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's an easy concept to say, hey, just stop by every week, say hello. But after the 12th week, you're like, oh, Aaron doesn't know what he's talking about. This is stupid. This is 12 weeks now I've stopped by and talked to this person. Well, that's what we need to do if you're going to pick up listings, because again, this is a courting relationship. So have a reason to stop by. Have a reason. So the first time that you go talk with them, one of the little tricks that I like to use, because they're going to be on guard, they're going to be defensive of real estate agents most of the time. So one of the things I like to do is park in their driveway or park in the street or park somewhere they can see my car from the front door. And I leave my car running, and I leave my door open, like turn the lights on the car, leave the door open, and I go knock on the door, and I take 4 or 5 steps back from the door. And so they come to the door, like I'm already halfway back to the car. And they say, yeah, can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I'm Aaron Kraft, Weicker Realtors. I'm just in a rush to another appointment, but I saw your sign in the yard. I just wanted to ask you what you were asking for the property. And they say, oh, well, we're asking, $300,000, but I'm not working with real estate. Oh, no problem. I just wanted to ask. I'm in the market. I'm looking for buyers, and just wanted to find out what you're asking for the property. And they say, yeah, all right, well, $300,000. Like, great. Well, I'm Aaron Kraft. Thanks for letting me know. I'll keep in touch with you and see if I can bring anybody by. Okay, thanks. Bye. And oftentimes they will come out of the house. They're like, whoa. Well, like, what, do you want to know some more information? Like, oh, I'd love to, but could I stop by in a couple hours? Could I stop by maybe 3 o'clock? And boom, what do I have? I have an appointment. And I'm not lying to them. Even if I have nowhere really to go, I'm not lying to them. In my mind, to me, that's gray area, because I am on my way to another appointment, right? Even if that appointment's to, I don't know, go home and grab a beer, I'm on my way to an appointment. So that's not lying. But it's just the perception that I'm not being pushy. I'm doing the opposite. I'm drawing them out. I'm pulling away, which makes people go, whoa, come on back here, come on back. And so that's one of the ways that I like to do it, that I kind of got down pat when I was doing this on a daily basis. Just kind of the stand away, stand back from the door, like one hand back, like, hey, I'm leaving, just tell me what you're asking. And then even if they just let me go and they said, okay, great, thanks for dropping by. When I would come back then a couple days later, or maybe even later that day, they would recognize me. And even though it was that short little thing, I have built some rapport. I'm not a complete stranger at that point. Should they trust me? No. But at that point, I'm not a complete stranger. So that's one of the things that I like to do. You can stop by and just talk about, I'm a real estate agent. I, work with buyers, and I wanted to just find out a little bit more about your house. I'd like to take a tour of your home if you have time now. And oftentimes they'll say, yeah, sure, come on in, I'll take you around. So you can get a view of the house, kind of tour it. But I'm not talking about listing it. I'm never talking about listing it in the beginning. I'm always just talking about getting information on the house. And they might say, well, do you have a buyer for the house? And maybe you do. If you do, wonderful. Let them know, yeah, I've got this guy, his name's Joe. He's interested in this area, and I'm looking. But if you don't actually have that buyer, don't ever say you do when you don't. Again, we're not trying to lie to anybody, but you're in the market. You're always looking for buyers. And so just telling them, well, I'm always on the lookout for buyers and sellers. And, I don't think right now the buyers I'm currently working with, I don't think they'll be interested in your house. But if you'd like to show me around, I'd love to learn more. And I might meet a buyer later this afternoon that might fit what you've got here. So usually people buy into that, and it's true. So you're just learning the market and getting that. And then every other time you stop by, you should bring something of value. I will share with you a word sheet that has like 10 things that you could bring over, but they could be things as simple as the property disclosure statement. right? They could be the mineral oil rights. Those are state forms that a for sale by owner is supposed to fill out as well. They could be stuff from our Weichert, Weichert 1, and on the listing presentation and the leave behind, the staging your home to sell and getting your home ready to sell. Those kind of one-line sheets that you could drop by a new one each week. It could be a quick market analysis, not pricing of their home, but a market analysis of their zip code, of their street or subdivision, or just some quick updates. Hey, I just want to let you know your neighbor down the road there, they just listed their house for X. It could be that. Be as simple as that. But every time you should be dropping by with something of value. Okay. The one service you should not give away is the price. Oftentimes people will say, well, what do you think about the price? Don't tell them, don't give them the information. Now, the way I will give them the info is if they will allow me to do a full marketing presentation for them. So sometimes they'll say, well, I'd really like to know your opinion of price. So, I'd be happy to give it to you. But in order to do that, I've got to spend several hours researching and going through your home and really make sure that I can help price it correctly. I'm happy to do that for you for free, no obligation. But the only thing I ask in return is that you would listen to my marketing presentation in order to list your home. If you choose not to list with me, that's okay. But if I'm going to put forth the effort and the time to do the pricing, I need at least that opportunity to present to you my marketing ideas. And if you like it, great. Maybe we can work together. And if not, so be it. You get some pricing info, and maybe it'll help you out. So that's the only way I'll give that away, is to basically ask for that listing presentation. All right. Some questions when you're with the for sale by owner to ask. Why are you selling? What's your motivations? Again, they represent themselves. Should they tell you that? No, they really shouldn't. If you've got a potential buyer for the home, they shouldn't be telling you why they're selling. But you can ask, and they can answer. They usually will. Where are you moving to? Maybe you try to pick them up as a buyer's agent. That was always a friend of mine used to do that all the time. When he would prospect for sale by owners, he would just say, I don't even want your listing, which of course makes them want you to list it even more. It's just the strangest thing about human beings. But say, I don't even want your listing. I just want to work with you as a buyer's agent. You guys moving into town? Oh no, we're moving over to LA. Okay, great. Well, I can hook you up with a referral agent. And he would make quite a bit of money on just referrals and stuff, on talking to for sale by owners. And of course, he would pick up listings too, because by telling them you don't want it, they're like, well, why not? And you start that conversation. So how soon do you need to get there? This is a key question. So you find out why they're selling, and they say, well, how soon do you need to, get moved? And they say, well, we need to be moved in the next 4 months. What does that tell you? It tells you that after about 2-3 months of trying a for sale by owner, they're going to list with someone, because they have to be wherever they need to go in 4 months. So it kind of gives you an idea of how long you're going to have to stick in with this. How did you determine the price? That's always a good question. I've heard everything under the sun. I mean, everything. Sometimes people say, well, I just looked at my tax value and that's what I listed it for. What? Sometimes they're really accurate, and they say, well, I did a full evaluation of the market in the area, and my neighbor's house over here is the exact same floor plan. They sold for X. And sometimes they have some pretty good accuracy in there. And other times you're just way off. And oftentimes you hear from sellers, I don't really know. I just thought this would be a good price. And of course that leaves good opportunity for you to step in and say, well, would you like me to do a full market analysis to help you know if your price is correct, or maybe it's a little off, maybe it's high, maybe it's low. I'd be happy to do that for you if you would let me do a market presentation for you, marketing presentation. Okay. The other good one is, how long have you had the home for sale? So again, if they say, well, we've had it up for 4 months or 4 weeks, 5 weeks, we know that typically they'll stay on the market for about 8 to 9 weeks before they list with the real estate agent. So if they've already been on the market for 5 or 6 weeks, then we know we don't have that long before they're likely to to quit. Some thought-provoking questions. Are you doing regular open houses? Oh no, that's something you realtors do. Well, you can do an open house yourself as a for sale by owner and show them how to do it. Give them information. Give them all your secrets to doing open houses. Why? Because they're not going to do it anyway. You know, maybe 1 out of 10 will actually go ahead and do the open house, but most of them won't do it anyway. So help them. Show them what they need to do. All that does is endear them to you and really want to thank you for trying to help. You know, how much activity have you had? And they say, oh yeah, you know, we've had 5 showings a day. Like, okay, you know, oftentimes they're lying, but sometimes they say, well, gosh, you know, we haven't had anybody knock on the door in weeks. Okay, so that's a good question to ask. Other than listing the property online, what else have you done to promote it? Most for sale by owners simply put the sign in the yard, and these days they usually will put it up on Craigslist or Zillow or something like that, but that's it. So what else have they done? Talking could lead to conversation about what else they could do or you could do for them. Are you familiar with your competition? Would you like me to send you what the other neighbors, other homes are on the market for right now? I can send you some pictures of those as well. Are you pre-qualifying the buyers? They often don't know about working with different lenders and what that might mean, so you could talk them through that. Is there always someone at the helm to show it? That's one of the biggest issues I see for sale by owners. They're often working people and they're gone 8 to 5 and they get home and they're trying to return calls and trying to make showings for 7 o'clock at night, and the buyers are like, no, I can't come at 7 at night. And so they're missing out on showings. So you want to point this out to them and show them that they could be missing a lot of showings. The other thing that I like to mention, you want to be really careful how you mention it. You don't want to threaten anybody. You don't want to make them feel unsafe. Well, that's the whole purpose of this question, is to make them feel unsafe. So I guess I do want to make them unsafe, but not in a mean way or a threatening way, I guess. But you want to ask them, you know, what kind of qualifications are you giving to people who are coming in your home? They say, well, what do you mean? Well, you know, with real estate agents, letting strangers into your home is a risky business. And so at least with real estate agents, everyone's got a background check. They have a state license. So even if the buyers don't always have that, there's a realtor with them at all times that has those background checks. And so, you know, being in real estate for a long time, I feel really quite safe with having my home shown by another realtor. However, without that set, anyone could see your sign and call you, and they could come to your door and say, hey, you know, I'd like to see your home. Chances are you're going to let them in, right? And they're going to say, yeah. You say, well, what's to stop them from doing whatever they want once they're inside your home? And it's a very difficult concept or difficult conversation, but it's very real. I don't understand why for sale by owners don't feel that threat on their own, and especially when you see elderly folks often that list their home for sale by owner, and you just kind of cringe because of what could happen. Obviously, you hope it doesn't, but I mean, people could do whatever they want once you get them inside the house. So those are real questions to ask and make them feel that potential pain there of what if somebody were to rob you or something worse, you know? So that's a very real thing that I'm just amazed that for sale by owners don't think about that more often. All right, resolving some of the for sale by owner objections. Now, it's just like we always talk about using the paid method, right? We're going to pause, acknowledge, isolate, and discover. So on this slide, we talk about acknowledging the objection, isolating it, and then handling it, and then closing for an agreement again. But it's using the paid method. We're going to pause, acknowledge it, isolate. Is that the only objection you have? Is there only objection the fact that they have to pay a real estate agent, in our case, 6%? If it is, then we can talk through that and try to get them past it by showing them that, are you willing to pay 3% through a buyer's agent? Yes. Okay, so we're not talking about 6, we're talking about 3. So for that 3%, here's my negotiating tactics that I could get, or I could use to help you get more money. Here's the marketing dollars that I spend, et cetera, right? All right, so that's the basic, as fast as I can make it, for sale by owner prospecting list. So the idea is to go talk to them once a week until they list with you or they list with someone else. Here's my prospecting plan. I think it is very intimidating to say, I'm going to work a ton of for sale by owners. You can go after it if you want, but the problem is you got to go talk to them week after week after week. And so what I suggest is that you go out and you pick 3. You find 3 for sale by owners, and you locate them and you visit with them and you stay on them, knowing full well that sometimes the first conversations are not going to go great with them. But it's the consistency of talking to them. I'm here to help. I'm here to help. You'll see how many of them kind of open up and they start really letting you in and eventually start listing with you. But they will list with the they will list with the real estate agent that's there last. So don't think, well, I've talked to them for eight weeks straight, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off. I'm telling you, those will be the weeks they'll decide to quit and go hire an agent, and some other Joe will come in and talk to them one time and they'll pick up the listing and you did all the work. So stick with them, keep visiting them week after week, but pick 3. That way you don't feel bad when you pass another for sale by owner. You're always working with 3, satisfied with that. Don't give up on them. And then once one drops off, maybe one sells the house himself. Okay, great, good for you. And you can add another one. So you're always working 3 at one time. Okay. All right. So that's our for sale by owner class. Again, that's a quick way to get through it. But you know, with Kim, you being the one on here, do you have any questions that?
I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I've had the for sale by owner before, someplace or another, but the expireds I was interested in on how to pick those up. I do have 4 people for sale by owner that I'm working with.
Good.
And I've been going weekly, and you know, it's gotten to the point now where like when I get out of the car, their dogs all run up to me. So
oh. Yep. Well, that's it. And the hard part is that oftentimes agents just give up and say, well, they've told me 10 times they're not going to list with me, or they really want to do this themselves. But at some point their heart will break, or at some point they'll say, you know what, we got to get moved. And so let's just call Kim and let's get this done. But you won't get there if you don't keep talking to them. So that's great. Sounds like you're doing the right thing. Just keep it up.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, good deal. All right. Yep. Thanks for joining. Appreciate you being on board there.
All right. See you next week.
Okay.